symbols show us about ourselves. We can find truth in those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
We can learn about ourselves from those patterns. So look to your dreams, look to the artwork that you've surrounded yourself with to understand yourself better.
Hello, dreamers. My name's Lisa, and I'm the Dreamwork coach. Today, we have an awesome guest on. Her name is Addie Hirschten. Addie is a contemporary impressionist painter, host of the Studio Alchemy Podcast, and owner of the Studio Alchemy Gallery. Hirschten is a graduate of Robert Moss's Dream Teacher Training Level 1. She has been a professional artist and painting instructor for over 10 years, has a BFA, MLS, and is the author of several books, including The Alchemy of Art, Stories for the Classroom, The Alchemy of Painting, and Start Selling Your Art, which is recorded for Audible. Her latest book on symbolism is still in progress. You can sign up for her newsletter to get updates at www.studioalchemy.art. Thank you so much for being here, Addie. I'm excited to have you.
Oh, Lisa, I'm excited to chat with you again. Yay.
Yay. Yes, if you don't know, I was just on Addie's podcast. So if you love how we're vibing, you can go over there and check out that too on her website.
We got a vibe.
We do, yes. So Addie, you and I are both students of Robert Moss, who is very big into active dreaming. I believe he actually came up with the term active dreaming. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about active dreaming and how you use artwork to express your dreams.
Sure. So to me, the term active dreaming implies that you are using your dreams in a way that is going to actively engage in your life. You don't just say, oh, I had this dream last night, whatever, it was just a dream. You really look at it and you absorb it into your conscious mind. So you're taking the things from the subconscious mind, that's the things that happen in dream, and then you're lifting them up to the conscious mind so that you can really understand yourself better. What motivates you, what direction you really should go in your life. And I love analyzing dream symbols for myself and using them in a way that's going to actively help me. So, for example, I had one dream where I swooped down to a riverbed. So I was flying and then I swooped down and I'm in the mud and I'm a woman in the mud and I'm taking my hands and streaking them through the mud and sculpting the mud. I'm not sure exactly what I was sculpting, but the mud itself was all these beautiful different colors. Okay.
Nice.
So, and I woke up from the dream feeling that the symbol of the hands is so potent for me, being an artist, being someone who takes things and molds them to create something new in a transformative way. And so I loved that symbol of the hands. And so to solidify the symbol for me and to have it be more of a constant reminder of what's important to me and how I want to use my hands and my energy in my life, I created a painting. It's over there behind me. And I'll send Lisa a photo of it so that you can show it on the side and it'll be more clear than if I try to move the camera. But it's of hands scraping through mud. And then there are all these colors coming out of the mud to represent, almost like your rainbow, Lisa, to represent new life and new creation. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. I really love that story. And I will put that up there so everyone can kind of see it as you're describing and talking about it. And what a great example of active dreaming, of taking something that you dreamed about and bringing it to life in this world through artwork. So I think that's awesome. So I know that when we chatted once before, you told me a really cool story about a dream of healing that you had, and then a really powerful piece of artwork that you worked with and kind of transformed through your healing process. And I would really love it. It would be very valuable for everyone here, I think, to hear that story and to see that painting too.
Sure. Okay. So what happened was last year, the past couple of years, I've had a major health problem where the joints in my hands would get super swollen, and I'd even get these bumps like this that are called ganglion cysts in my hands. And my hands actually, I was just talking about how important my hands are in the work that I do, but I could barely use them on some days. And it was very mysterious what was going on. And long story short, I went to a million doctors trying to figure it all out. I was told many different things, but it was a combination of the thyroid medicine that I had been on and my body just not reacting to it in a very rare way that's not normal. Mm-hmm. So, but, I was in the middle of trying to figure all that out and dealing with the pain of it. It does still bother me a smidge on occasion now, but it's nothing like it was before. Before, to give you an idea, the worst day I went to open the door and I couldn't open a door because I couldn't take my hand and twist the knob and pull it. It's just like everything was so swollen. It was like I couldn't use all those regular muscles. So during that time, I had this dream. I am in a house and I look up at the ceiling. And there are rafters there, exposed beams. And in all the nooks and crannies of the rafters, there are these little grubs, this little sort of white, puffy, worm-like creatures that are all attached to the beams. And they're not supposed to be there. Gross. And so then I open the door and a school of fish swim in. So there's 4 or 5 small fish, and they go up and they start eating at the grubs. And I think, oh, this is great. The fish are going to eat the grubs and everything will be wonderful and better. Okay. But I also thought to myself, this is going to take some time because there's just a few fish and there were a lot of little grubs. And the fish needed to really go through and process all of them. And it was going to take a long time. So when I woke up from the dream, I said, well, the message of this dream seems to be saying something about patience. Things take time. It's going to take the fish a long time to eat the grubs. And I knew that this dream had something to do with my health. And after analyzing the dream, working with the dream, assessing it for a while, I decided that for me, the fish represents abundance and health, and maybe even the immune system going and eating up all of the bad things. Right? And so to me, it was a message that I just need to relax. We'll figure it all out with time. I will heal with time. And then after coming to that conclusion and having the dream really make me feel better, like, it's one of those dreams that's like, when I figured it out, it caused my whole body to relax. Like, okay, we'll get to this. That's the message. But I created a painting that's over here. I'm going to show you so that Lisa can have it up at the side. And it is of cells, like the cellular structure that's in all of our body. And it's got fish and it has a nude me, not too detailed, at the center. So what I did is I started with a painting where I had all of these round circles that were the cells, and it was very dark and everything was misshapen. They were unhealthy cells. And then I worked with those cells, making them rounder and rounder and more yellow, vibrant, happy yellow energy. And then I ended up having these fish swimming toward my nude body. They're here to save the day. They are gonna help me get better health again. And so creating that painting, it did several things. For one thing, it was just therapeutic for me to sort of work through the images, to wallow in the everything feels bad in the beginning, and then no, I am choosing to be more healthy, and I'm visualizing that in my mind, so that my positive attitude very well may actually have it come to fruition, right? And then also now I have a reminder. I have this visual image on my wall. Every time I see it, I can say, yes, the fish are here to save the day. And it helps me to have images like this, that if I'm having a sad moment, if I'm having a struggling moment, I can think, oh yeah, remember that message of the dream, remember that symbol, and how it brought me to a place of feeling better.
Yeah, I love that story.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's like, is that what art therapy is? Did you just describe art therapy? Someone who has no idea. I have no idea what art therapy is, but I've heard the term.
Okay. Yeah, I can in brief share with you about art therapy. I am not an art therapist. So to be an art therapist, you have to go and get a special certification, which takes several years.
Oh, okay.
And you have to, it's like a 3-year program, and you have to go through a lot of counseling where you're helping to counsel people so you get hands-on experience. I essentially art as therapy can be used in 2 ways. Okay. In one way, it's just as I sit down and I create the artwork, I'm creating, that act is therapeutic in and of itself, because it's bringing your mind away from your sickness and you're focusing on something else, and you're getting in the groove of that project, and that feels good, and that's healing in and of itself. Okay. But then also, of course, a trained therapist can work with someone and the images that they have created and say, you made this monster over here. What is that about? It's oftentimes can be like dream analysis.
Yeah.
You focused on this image. Why? What was that image? What does it represent for you? And it can be just a jumping off point for further discussion.
I see. Awesome. Well, what you just described is at least a very good example of how art and dreams can be therapeutic. Like, I love how you worked through the painting. Like, you painted it one way and then you actually like visualized and, changed the painting as you went on. And now you have this finished piece that represents, vibrancy and health. And I love it so much. Thank you for sharing that so much. So that is like go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel I should share. I forgot to mention this part, that there are some cultures, shamanic cultures, that use image in the healing process. So one very good example comes from the Navajo culture. They have, if someone is very ill, the shaman goes to their house and creates a sand painting on the floor with different mythical symbols and things, and they're sort of working through the healing process in visual form. And then they take that sand painting and they sweep it away and then go throw it, I think, in the river, or something that's disposed of in a special way, because it's considered like toxic now. It's like brought in the energy of the illness, and now we're getting rid of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the part of the idea that I got for my painting was about reading other cultures that do that, using image as a part of the healing process.
Awesome. Yeah. So we've talked now about how, like, you have a personal story about how dreams kind of helped you heal something. So are there other ways that you use dream work, like other ways that you incorporate dream work into your waking life?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I will look to my dreams for symbols that will help me clarify what I should do moving forward. And sometimes it takes a long time to figure those things out. For example, about 5 years ago, I went through 2 or 3 years that I was dreaming all the time about houses. And the houses, they did have some things that were patterns, like they were always next to the water. Okay, there's always some sort of a lake or a stream or something next to the house. And then the houses were in different states of repair, but I arrive at the house and I go in, and sometimes it's my house, sometimes it's a friend's house or different people in my lives. But that I eventually decided, what this means? I need to get a new house. because the place I was at was not ideal for different reasons. And I knew that I wanted to have a place where my artwork, my studio, everything would be all in one place. And I could have people come and be part of my art community here in my house space. So I'm always on the lookout in my dreams for different symbols, what they could mean, how I could apply those things to my life. Another quick example, I had a dream just the other day that I was in a haunted house, and it was like an amusement park. Okay. And I was going through the hallways in a chair. So I'm in a chair that's all plush, but it's zipping me through. Okay. And it was going really fast. You would turn a corner fast, and I'm going, oh, there was something on the wall and I didn't see it. If you've ever gone to a good haunted house, they've added all these little details and funny sayings. And, I love that stuff. And in the dream, it's like I'm zipping by really fast. And so that message just said, slow down. When I woke up, I said, everything needs to slow down. So I feel that most dreams have a message for me. It may be even 2 or 3 messages, but if I sit with it long enough, it'll become more clear.
Yeah, it is amazing how much clarity we can gain from our dreams when we just start paying attention. And it isn't as hard to interpret them as you might think. Like that was a pretty clear message. Slow down. Like, thank you for sharing that with us for sure. So I love that you are an artist, and I'll definitely highlight some of your paintings on here. What if I wanted to work with artwork in my dreams and like illustrate my dreams, but I'm a terrible artist? Like, how would you suggest that I go about other ways of working with my dreams, or even tips on how I can still create art, even if I have no idea how to hold a paintbrush?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's funny. My own dreams, my dream journal, I should say. In my dream journal, here's a little example. You can see I drew like a little map on there, but I don't usually draw much on in my actual dream journal itself. But sometimes I do if I feel like, well, this is just going to make it clear, and it's almost always a map. And to help me remember the dream itself. If you feel that you aren't an artiste and that's not your thing and that's not what you want to do, there are certainly many other ways that you could work with images to solidify them in the way that we talked about with the hands painting and the fish painting. Yeah. You could get magazine images and create a little collage. You could get images from online and create a digital collage, or print it out. You can certainly buy someone else's artwork. In feng shui and the Chinese methods of using symbolism and arranging your house, they love doing paintings of waterfalls near the front door. It's abundance. It's bringing in the flowing movement of water. Water is a big symbol for them. Near the door and the entry where everything is coming in. And I certainly would urge everyone to be cautious about the symbols that you're bringing into your home, because if they aren't exemplifying what you want in your life, then they might be bringing you down. So one funny example, years ago, I had a boyfriend who had all these posters in his bedroom that were of movies, and they were all fighting swords, and everybody in every single poster was fighting. And I mean, do you want to bring fighting energy into your bedroom where you sleep? For me personally, it's not the sort of energy that I want to be bringing in. So does that answer your question?
It does. And okay. There's a weird synchronicity with you saying feng shui, because I was just I just today saw it twice in other places.
Oh,
And I haven't thought of feng shui in years. So
okay.
you just like, I lit up when you said that word. I was like, oh my God,
Okay.
like the universe has some, like, I need to look into that. That's like a message to me.
Yeah.
And maybe other people too, hopefully. And I love your suggestion for collages. Like if you can't, draw yourself or paint yourself, like I love the idea of just like going through magazines or even like the internet and printing out pictures that make sense and then meshing them together in a collage. I love that. That's a really good practical way that people can use images, even if they can't create them themselves. So
Right.
I ask everyone this that comes on my channel. What's your dream work routine? I find it helpful to hear what other people's routines are. Like if you have a nightly routine or you keep a journal, practice chiromancy. So like, what do you do? What's your routine?
Okay. So I have a dream journal. I was just showing you here, and I write the date. I didn't used to write the date. And oh man, it's confusing to go back through those. I write the date and I share the story of the dream. I dreamed that I was working at my daughter's daycare, blah, 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 blah. I share it play by play. And then sometimes at the end, I will write to honor this dream. I'm thinking I might do this. I'm thinking this symbol might represent this or that. So I'll sort of analyze it myself and leave a little bit of room after each one. And I do that every morning. My morning routine, I wake up and I get my coffee and I get my dream journal and I write it down if I can remember anything, even if it's a teeny little snippet, even if it's just, I know I was in a hospital. Okay, I write that down. Sometimes I will, at the night before I have a dream, I will say, hey, I'm really struggling. I need to figure out how to deal with such and such in my life. Dream source, give me a sign, and then oftentimes the dreams that I have will help clarify things. So yes, I do sketch my dreams, and sometimes, as we talked about, I'll make bigger pictures, but not always. Doesn't have to be. Yeah.
You hit on something really important there when you
Okay.
said you'll write down anything, even if it's just a snippet. Like those little snippets can be really important.
Yeah.
Like I find that sometimes we only remember a snippet because it is all we're meant to remember. Like, because it's so important that is all we're remembering on purpose, so that we focus on it. So
yes,
it's important.
And I should add too, Lisa, that 20 years ago, I read Robert Moss's book, The Conscious Dreaming. Okay. Just one. I think that might be his first book about dreaming.
It was.
It's really good. It's still one of my favorites. I've reread it a couple times. But so I started working with my dreams. I started doing a dream journal at that time, and then I got scared because I was having so many dreams that were just hitting a little too close to home, sensitive spots, and I had several precognitive dreams that just didn't make any sense to me. It was like, why did this happen? And so for example, I dreamed that there was an airplane that was coming toward my house and it's getting louder and louder and louder. And it's going to hit my house. And I woke up with a start, which I never do. Woke up with a start. And I said, oh, okay, well, it's probably there was an airplane flying over close by because we were too far from an airport, and that would occasionally happen. And I thought, okay, that's probably what that was. And I went back to sleep. And that next morning was September 11th.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't ever dream about airplanes. This was a unique one-time thing. And I ended up, Lisa, feeling a little like, why did I even get this dream? There's nothing I could do about the situation. And I got the dream, and then I thought, oh, it's just the random noises, and it's nothing. And then I didn't know what to do with it. And it felt scary, and it felt almost disempowering, if that's a strange thing to say. And now 20 years later, I've come back to the dream work, and am finding that now that I'm ready, it's more of a source of figuring myself out, of empowering. And yes, there might be some mysterious moments and things happening that I cannot explain. But overall, there's still, I don't know, now I'm looking at it and it's a spark of hope. It's like there's some sort of connection that's happening. And even if it's a moment where there's nothing I can do about that larger thing, I'm finding some solace that there's still something there.
Wow, that is a very powerful dream you just shared with us. Wow, that's, yeah, and I can see how that could have turned you off a little bit from dreaming for a while, because that can be really scary. Those dreams of the future do tend to freak people out a little bit, and that's a big one. So I'm glad that you came back to Dreamwork. And if nothing else, then something like that can at least make you realize how real it is. You know, like at least it helps back up that this stuff is real. It's not just in your head, you know, which can be very scary, but also very powerful once you realize, you know, it's actually pretty natural and that happens a lot. We dream about the future all the time. Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff. So you have this very soothing voice and you're wonderful to listen to. And you're perfect for a podcast, which you have a podcast. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your podcast is about and how people can find it to listen more.
Sure. So my podcast, the Studio Alchemy Podcast, I've recently renamed it. It used to be the Alchemy of Art Podcast. Okay. So when I first started it, I had written a book about folk tales that are about artists. And I was sharing those stories. And then I thought, I could do artist interviews. So I started interviewing my friends and people I've never met, but wanted to meet. And it's this great excuse to connect with people and learn from them. And I've greatly enjoyed that. But then recently I've been called more and more to start talking about, I've articulated it to be transformative themes. So I want to talk about how art can transform your life, but so can dreams. And so can so many other things in our life can help us to feel empowered and to step into the life that we want. And so I've started interviewing people from a wider range, and I am still doing some artists too, but have just broadened the scope. And it's really fun to do. It's enriching to my life because I get to learn from other people in a way that's it's unique. And only, you couldn't do this 30 years ago.
That's so true. Yeah, I love it. And it brings so much value to the people who are listening. So I think that's awesome. Is this podcast available on your website, the Studio Alchemy.art website, or is there a different way for people to find your podcast?
Sure. So I hosted on, it's technically on Podbean. Okay. So, but you can listen to it on any platform. So it filters through Podbean to iTunes and all of the apps.
I'll put a link to it in the comment section below as well, so people can just link to it. All right. So I know that you are working on a brand new book, which is super exciting, and it's about symbols. And I would like it if you could tell us a little about it. Like, why did you decide to write a book on symbols, and what's it all about?
Sure. Great. Yeah. So I'm hip deep in the symbolic world right now and reading all about it, gathering information for my book, and which has just been delightful. I first got interested in symbols from a couple of different sources in my life. One was Dreamwork, just analyzing the dream symbols. What do they mean? Where are they coming from? All of that certainly was part of the foundation for this book. Another source has been working with artists. So, I've had students who did mountain paintings over and over and over. I had one, this was a little girl, she did a heart in every single project we did for a year. And, so people gravitate towards certain symbols. And it might be that it's in the artworks that they're creating, or it might just be the symbols that they're bringing into their home. But why is that? What is it that's drawing us to certain things? And certainly you could make the argument that there's something inherently human about symbols and using symbols and as talismans, as messages of hope, all sorts of things. And my book itself is divided into two sections. The first section is a series of essays where I share personal stories and ways in which I've used symbolism to help me in times of transition. And then the second part is an encyclopedia of symbols where I'm doing little drawings of every little symbol, and that is fun too. But the chapters, I've got a chapter on psychology, I've got a chapter on how to use symbols for manifestation, I've got a chapter on symbols as signs, and how to use them in a chiromancy sort of a way. Yes, so I don't know if you have any more questions about it, but I can't wait to be able to share it with everybody, because I've done a lot of research and then just in sharing the personal stories. And I've done many illustrations for it too. It's really rich in paintings and illustrations in a way that's layered and I hope fun for people to read through.
It sounds fun to me. Especially my ears perked up when you said, like chiromancy and, how like symbols might relate to that. I can't wait to read this book. Like, I think it's going to be awesome. And symbols are very much like a universal language, just like dreams are. So I think it will tie very much into like everything we've talked about today. If anyone found this interesting, they'll definitely find your book very interesting. And I'm just curious, what are some of your favorite symbols and why?
Okay. Yeah, let me, I'll share the symbol that I start my book off with. So as I shared with you before, in the past couple of years, I've gone through all these health problems, and sometimes when you're going through something like that, you grasp at anything that's going to give you some sort of a hope. And this symbol was one of those. I woke up one morning and I went downstairs and I got my coffee, and then I went to the kitchen sink. And in the kitchen sink, there was a dead beetle.
Oh.
He was turned upside down. His legs are sticking up in the air. He's totally dead.
Poor guy.
I picked him up and I turned him over, and he was really pretty. He was sort of a tan color, very shiny back with little black dots. And I said, "Oh, he's so pretty. I hope you don't think I'm weird. This is an artist thing." I said, "I'm going to draw him later today. I'm going to keep his little corpse." So I took him and I put him on my desk. And then I went and I was doing all these other things for the day. And then all of a sudden, later that day, I sort of forgotten about him and suddenly realized, whoa, he's moving. He was trying to flip himself back over onto his belly. And I picked him up, and I had looked up that he was a grapevine beetle. So I knew there's some wild grapes in my alleyway. So I quickly took him outside and put him underneath the grapevine, and he was resurrected. He was not dead. And I couldn't believe it. And I felt this sense of relief. Wow. If the beetle could be resurrected from his catatonic state, then maybe I can too. And then I looked up this symbol of the beetle, and in Egyptian mythology, they believed that the beetle was a symbol of resurrection, and the day they do this. Beetles there in Egypt there's a certain dung beetle who will wrap up mud, make a little ball, and in it, I think they're putting their eggs or something like that. But because they would roll that little ball around, the ancient Egyptians associated it with the sun rolling across the sky. And so And reading about that gave me this connection to these ancient people that I wouldn't have otherwise had, because this symbol resonated with me, it resonated with them, and we're all connected through time and space. So just one of many, many favorites.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I imagine you have a lot of favorite symbols if you're writing a whole book about it. Oh, that's a neat story about the beetle that you thought was dead and came back to life. I did something similar with my mom on vacation one time. We found a conch shell on the beach and put it in the sink to clean it up. It looked empty to us. And like later on, we're sitting in a hot tub and we can hear something moving around in the sink. And we're like, oh my God, there's something in there. Like, the crab or whatever it is that lives, the conch, I guess, that lives in the shell was alive and it was still in there.
Oh, no.
And it was a little like, freshwater bath. It probably wasn't very happy because it was in our sink, but at least it was in water. So we took it back out, and threw it back in the ocean and said, thank you and sorry. Sorry we disturbed your home. Didn't know you were in there, poor little thing.
Oh,
but, yeah,
wow.
it was a very big surprise that it was occupied with something.
Yeah.
Very neat though. Then conch shells actually, is it conch shells or what are the spiral shells? It's a symbol that comes up for me a lot actually, now that I think about it. And it looks like in art, there's, you should know this. What's that called?
Yes, the golden mean, the golden spiral.
Yeah, that comes up in dreams for me a little bit too, now that I think about it.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. So that symbol is a mathematical equation that was discovered by Pythagoras, and he wrote it down and everything. But it is seen as a divine geometry because it's seen in so many different places in nature. It's in seashells, it's in the shape of a hurricane, it's in the shape of fronds, like ferns. When they start to open, they do that same shape. So we see it over and over and over again. And wherever there's a pattern, then we know that there's some sort of a truth.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of people see the golden mean or the golden spiral as a sacred shape. There's whole books about it. So I'm curious, how did it come up in your dream?
So hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
There's artwork on this one.
Oh, good.
So I don't remember the exact dream. I'd have to find it, but I dreamt about this really crazy looking face. This is what I dreamed about. Okay. And it's hard to see, but the eyes are the spiral shells. Okay. So it was like this thing with shells for eyes and these dots across its forehead. And in my dream, I kept drawing this over and over and over. I just kept drawing this face over and over with all the dots and the dots for the smiley face, dots around the eyes. And then I turned it into this in black and white and my mom colored it. So that's why it looks like that. So I have a feeling my mom was in this dream because I sent this to her and then she colored it like that. So if you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, what comes up for me is, what we see out of our eyes, what we notice is what's important to us. So there's something there, perhaps, that this shape is important to you. Yeah. The dots on the forehead. They're very strange. Gosh, I'm not sure about that.
Like a unibrow of dots. I just kept doodling it. Like my brain wanted to remember this because I drew it over and over and over and over. And it was just, the background is just like a copied and pasted thing from a coloring book. It was the face that I kept drawing.
Oh, it almost, I could also see that dots as somebody who has a headband. Maybe because it's so 60s. Yes. Like, can you just see the headband?
I could see that. I don't know. I love it. I did not think I would be showing that on here today. So that was fun. All right. Well, as we wrap this up, is there anything else you would like to leave us with? Any sort of insights or advice for other dreamers out there who want to start working with their dreams a little bit more?
Sure. I guess my final thought for you would be that symbols show us about ourselves. We can find truth in those patterns.
Mm-hmm.
We can learn about ourselves from those patterns. So look to your dreams, look to the artwork that you've surrounded yourself with to understand yourself better.
Thank you for that. And thank you so much for being here. Everybody make sure you go check out Addie's podcast and her books and her artwork on her website. And I'll be showing plenty of that here as well, so everyone can kind of see it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm sad that it's over.
I know. We'll do it again sometime. We'll do it again.
Good.
Happy dreaming.
All right.
It's awesome because dreams are like little windows into our soul. Sometimes they're really big windows, and they tend to shine a spotlight on things that are going on in our lives that need some attention that we might be ignoring consciously. Don't forget that we also dream while we're awake. We don't stop dreaming just when we go to sleep. So when you start paying attention to like signs and synchronicities going on around you in the world while you're awake, life becomes much more dreamlike and much more moldable. And, you can start to work with it in a much more meaningful way.
This is the Studio Alchemy Podcast, an interview with the Dreamwork coach, Lisa Bowie.